States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bobby, do the honor.
Right. Our hands. Father, again, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for our safety. Be with us and guide us in the right direction. We pray for this government for its right decisions, but we also pray for the mission accomplishments for the civil government. And in your name.
Amen. All right. Well, it's hot, so everybody's moving slow. I'm definitely moving slow, but a couple things. Let's see. Well, I'll go through a few things first. If anyone is looking to get G1000 VFR training, there was an email sent out that on Monday, the 12th, 1900 hours, they're going to do an online G1000 VFR course. So that's for both aircrew, like especially observers, and people aspiring to be pilots. It's good to get that out of the way because you will need to get checked off on a G1000 eventually. So if you have time, you got nothing to do at 7 o'clock on Monday, August 12th, then you might as well watch the G1000 VFR. Pretty helpful. There's a lot of neat little hints that they'll go through. They're not going to do things like full SAR usage of the G1000 because it gets a little technical, but being able to put in a course, being able to mark your position, being able to check your position, basic VFR stuff. So it's a good course, and like I said, checks a box. There is a Group 1 SARX Drex, so for the drone types. That's going to be the 17th and 18th of August at Whiteman. So again, email was sent out for that. If you're looking to complete some training, if you're looking to get in the air because you have got to either complete an MS or MO or something like that, or base staff, or drone, or UAS. I think what are they doing? So SAR training, ELT locating, so UDF, Waldo. That might be worth going for Waldo. Airborne photography, drone, SUAS, and base staff. So you got to get your FAM and prep done prior to going, obviously, because that's just how it is for all SARXs. But if you want to hike up to Whiteman or fly up for some of us, then there you go. Everybody who can speak to why we don't have any aircraft are not here, so that's interesting. But if we had a plane, maybe we could think of going. But last time I checked, we didn't have an airplane. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the CAP big announcements. One reminder is Squadron dues. Yay! So remember, Squadron dues. $300 a year, check written. If you don't know how to write the check to make sure that it hits the appropriate account, make sure you check with me or Michelle. It's pretty straightforward. Just got to remember our charter number. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really only $25 a month. So, for the wonderful things you do here at CAP. Anyway, so make sure if you haven't paid for this year, please get that done. Like I said, I was going to go on to maintenance, but no one's updated the maintenance page in a while. I'm not an AMO, so I don't have access to AMRAD, but the last experience I had in the plane that we had was we flew it here, we parked it, and then it was picked up the next day and flown away. So as far as I know, we don't have a plane. So I don't know what to say. It'd be nice to have a plane. From the things that I've heard, we're supposed to get a 172. So while it will be new and it'll have a G1000, so those of us who fly 172s or have flown or are familiar with them, it would be nice to fly a nice new Cessna 172. The problem is none of the pilots in this squadron are qualified to fly a Cessna 172. But we fly 206s and 182s, right, but the first time you get a Form 5 in any of our aircraft models, you have to be checked out in that model. So Doesn't matter if you fly 206 or a 182. If you've never been Form 5 in a 172, you have to find a cap instructor to give you a Form 5 in a Cessna 172. There are not that many instructors available in Group 3 or some of the surrounding groups, so we'll be getting a Cessna 172 that nobody can fly. It'll be great. Um, I'm just calling it like it is. Hopefully, we can resolve the issue of not having instructor pilots around, but I don't even know how many of our instructor pilots have our 172, so it's kind of a mess right now. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's kind of weird, but hopefully we'll get some new aircraft eventually, or at least some aircraft from somewhere. I don't know. It's a really tenuous situation. I was down at Imperial a couple weeks ago, and it was the hot topic of the entire weekend. Group 3 has no aircraft, so it's kind of unusual. We are the Civil Air Patrol, so I don't know how that happened, but there's a lot of conversations about trying to fix that. It's a little bit coupled with the fact that, I think one bit of news I'm not sure everybody is aware of or pays attention to, but our Group 3 commander has resigned, so we don't know the replacement yet. So, so there's a lot in flux in Group 3 right now. So I don't have a lot of insight into what's going on, but it's the summer heat. I think it's baking administrata here at CAP is what I think is happening. Let's see. As far as any other announcement, any other department, we got our audit coming up. That's true. So those of you that hold duty positions, you may or may not be tapped to fill out some data and be ready for our audit. So I know you still have some questions about AE, probably. No? Yes?
Huh?
Or AE for the...
Yeah, Andre tried to do that.
Okay. And I know you got a lot of stuff to do. I'll be filling in for wherever we need, so it is what it is. So what we call them SUIs for all the new people. It's our squadron unit inspection. It's done by the Civil Air Patrol IGs, the Inspector Generals, or they come in and they make sure that we do our paperwork correctly. We follow the rules, we cross the T's, we dot the I's, but also inventory is a big one. So what's in the hangar, what's in our office, since we don't have a plane assigned to us, this is going to go easier this year. And we don't have a ground vehicle assigned to us, so that'll go easy. And we don't have cadets, so that whole section we don't deal with. So it's really just there are certain things that we have to keep up with. So you're both admin and PAO, so it's going to be a little fun for you because the PAO has other duties that have to be done. So it's all just checking boxes. It's like, ooh, do we do this? No. Okay, let's type up something really quick, and then there you go. Look, it's done. And yeah, that's how we did it last year.
What did you fly at Imperial with no airplane?
We had a plane that we flew back, and then it flew away after that. So we had a steam gauge 182, 809 Charlie Papa, which is it's a steam gauge 182, but it's got a what is it, a GNX 375 in it. So I mean, it's got a Garmin GPS. But no autopilot, so I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just we thought we were going to have that plane for a while. We flew it back, we wiped it off, we parked it, and they flew it up to Watsonville, and that's where it is. So it's no longer here in this squadron. Yes.
Did the new learning system get launched?
Yes, Absorb is up. The first time you go, depends. So for those of us that have done training in Access before, the first time you go into Absorb, it will take like a few minutes to kind of migrate all your data over. But once you're in, you're in. I haven't officially taken any courses in Absorb yet. I just kind of clicked around and made sure all my stuff looked like it was still there. It correctly realizes that I have level 3 to do. So as far as I can tell, it's fine. It looks a little bit cleaner than Access was, but it's up. It's working. If you were linking to it before, you probably need to make a new link to it. But what I usually do is on e-services, I just create a link to the learning management system, and at the very top of the learning management system is Absorb. So just where Access used to be. What I'm waiting to find out is recurrent training. Some of the recurrent stuff that we have to do, like cadet protection, normally was outside of Access. So I'll be curious to see if that shows up in Absorb or if it's still going to be off to the side. There's some other training that's just like outside of Access. I'm curious to see. Hey, be curious to see if that gets rolled in. But hey, it's good. It's all volunteer, so it's good stuff. Any other questions about things discussed so far? Yes.
Dues. When are dues due?
That's always the question of the day. Every time Andre asks me, I just pay it. So maybe I'm getting screwed. I don't know. But
No, I honestly I don't know.
yeah. Well, hey Michelle.
Wouldn't it be it's like we joined in January, so ours would be
Well, when are dues actually due? I don't even know the answer to that question.
It's always like September, October. Beginning
Is
of
it
the year.
fiscal? It's a fiscal year. So that's September, October?
Yeah, some of them are paid prior when they arrive, but it would be prorated according to what Andre's email
Okay. So CAP is on the fiscal year. So I guess it's due somewhere around September, October, technically. But if you paid early, you get prorated, right? Is that?
Andre
Okay.
sent out an email this afternoon, so.
Well, it didn't hit me, so I must have paid.
Yeah. Only for those who are
All right.
Is it for the upcoming year or because the dates?
This for this year?
Because the date said 2023 to 2024.
Yeah, that's for this fiscal year.
Which ends in a couple months.
Ends on September 30th.
Yeah, that's
Prorate
the
the
way-
second
The
year.
second one will be prorated, so I'm not exactly sure how to calculate out to, if you want to set when you pay.
Yeah, it's very loose system. That's probably why we're in the red. I don't know. Just gonna guess. No, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that Civil Air Patrol is really bad about this. So
But, yeah, you can,
And we're paid yet in October?
either October or January, some people pay.
But it'll be the prorated lower amount, so it'll be like, since it's only 2 months, it'll be something like $50 or so.
yeah,
Yeah,
it,
Andre will send out the,
And then that'll basically, then from then on, it'll be every October the full amount.
So August the full amount, and then prorated October, prorated amount.
Prorated amount, so.
Prorated.
Backward.
so prorated from your join date to September 30th. Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice if there was like a really cool kind of invoicing system that did all this stuff. That would be nice, but again, it's all written by volunteers. If only we knew somebody in the payment tech industry who could code that kind of stuff. Andre.
You can't throw a rock around here without hitting the IT guys.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, but specifically, our illustrious squadron commander, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but our illustrious squadron commander actually is a CTO of a payment tech company. So specifically dealing with, you hear what I'm saying, Andre, don't you? Yeah. Okay. But anyways, yeah, it would be nice if there was like a better method of tracking it. And don't forget, national dues are completely separate from the squadron dues. So, and unlike squadron dues, that can be collected, like you could set that up for automatic payment, and they'll just charge you every year and you don't have to worry about it. Whereas on squadron dues, yeah, no. And they've cracked down. So it used to be the squadron, well, a lot of squadrons used to use some sort of lockbox, right? They would, set up a PayPal account or whatever it was, and people could now electronically pay into the lockbox account on PayPal. But then Wing came and said, no, we're not doing that anymore because we can't track it. We can't really, we can't keep track of corruption and other things like that. So they gave us the nix on. Can't do it that way. So while it would be useful and we'd be able to do things like pay monthly or quarterly instead of just yearly, I sent a lot of emails when I first joined because I was like, hot to make a difference. And I talked to the wing director of wing finance, and they don't answer those questions. So I don't. It's just mail a check with PCRCA 387 on it. It'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Now there's other things. Michelle, remember when? So while I was working for Red Hat, and did they ever actually donate in the name?
Yes, they actually did. I spoke to Terry because I wasn't exactly sure. I had an unknown.
Unknown deposits? Yeah.
I wasn't exactly sure if it was ours or it was a mistake.
Hmm.
And she emailed me back and said, yes, that was from your.
It was from that. It was, but it's a service called Benevity, and that's because of the company I work for used that service, and that service knows about 501c, or 501c3, 501c3. It knows about those organizations. It knew specifically about Civil Air Patrol, and it also was smart enough to understand that we had charter numbers, and you could donate to CAP as a whole or donate to specific squadrons. It was pretty cool. I'd never seen anything like that before. It was nice while I worked there briefly, but they supposedly, because of the company I worked for, they would match up to $1,500 per year. So it's like, and that included anything I paid into the squadron. They would just match it. So they also included your hours. So when you showed up for a SARX, or you do missions or whatever you're doing, or these meetings, I could actually claim all that as time. And they paid like a rate of volunteer hours that they would pay to the squadron. But I wasn't working there for that long. But the service still exists, and I think you can sign up for the service individually. So that would be interesting to find out if we could. But it took a long time though, didn't it?
Actually, it wasn't.
It was supposed to be like up to 90 days.
One was for 75. Sorry, one was for 50, one was for 175, and it didn't come in until January of 2024. And that's when Terry told me that it was a matching volunteer
Mm-hmm.
from your workplace
Yep.
contributed by your employer.
Okay.
It just said cash contribution back.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, because they made me fill out all the information so that it's supposed to get correctly tagged, but at least it hit the squadron funds. It just didn't tell you what it was from. Mysterious benefactor. Yeah. It'd be so. I guess it probably was about 90 days then, like right on the dot, because they don't sweep it continuously. They like sweep only once in a while. Be interesting though, because that was all completely electronic. Like there's no cash, Anywho, all right. So squadron dues, bam, they're good.
Oh, I actually just got a recycling receipt from Al here.
Woohoo!
5 PCs that Conrad had said that he
The old PCs. They just use it for target practice.
That's up to them. They donated.
So I don't know if this is going to be part of the paperwork that you guys have to send in.
I'm pretty certain it has to go somewhere. Because I would put it in the office for now. Just put it right in the office because since those things might have been inventoried, we'll have to account for where they are now.
Okay.
So that's probably what we do.
I don't do it.
Hmm?
I don't do inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. Because inventory is the hot topic. Yeah, inventory is the hot topic for SUI.
Are we gonna need to inventory all the radio gear, not only that's here at the squadron, but, because there was at one point in time last year, I had to take pictures of the serial numbers of the count gear that I've got at home, and some of the information for the stuff here.
It's a good question. The last SUI that I participated in, it was the stuff that was assigned to the squadron. So things like the MMKs, those aren't assigned to the squadron. Like they're assigned to the group or something like that.
But the radios in the back.
But the radios in the back are assigned to us.
Okay.
And I don't know what they do about personal issue gear because like I did the previous radios and stuff, and we just had them here. Like, I mean, it was like I collected them, I gave them a receipt, and said yes, and I have pictures. This was the same thing. I took a bunch of pictures, and
And
so.
when is the inspection?
Let's see if I can see it.
I just want to make sure I'm not out of town if you need to capture those serial numbers and all that.
Let's see. Week of the 19th. All right. Yeah. So that's when the squadron inspection is. Yay.
Do they actually come in when we're here during this
Oh
time, or
no.
is
It's a
it
separate
random?
time. No, we'll usually work out a time. If I remember correctly, it's a husband-wife team that does it this time. So they'll come in, they'll paw through the office. Like I said, I mean the big thing that we didn't do last time was we're not supposed to have archival records beyond a year. Like that was the biggest problem. We had a big box called archive records that was sitting on the shelf, and it's like maybe you shouldn't have that in here like that.
But
So.
these kind of they're all in a file down below, inactive files. I just need to take them out.
Yeah, literally, they just
do what with them?
like put them in your car during the inspection
Yeah.
and then put them back there after the inspection. Like that's
okay. I can do that.
yeah, that's literally it. Yeah, it's. I mean, look. I mean, now to a greater point, we're kind of shadowing in what the U.S. Air Force does. Now, I was reading a couple things lately. So they had a B-1 bomber that crashed, and when they start looking into what happened, it's like, well, it was a failure of leadership and among other things, and airmanship, and nobody was enforcing the standard. I mean, because why did that aircraft crash? Oh, they got low and slow. $125 million aircraft with all that training, and they got low and slow and crashed. Like, okay, so that happens. So we're just trying to shadow the same thing of there's rules, we follow them, and it's to me it's just pretty straightforward. I mean, being ex-military, you don't have to think about it that much. You just do it.
Hey,
But
just a reminder on records, there's still that tub of records from that Victorville Squadron or whatever out in the hangar. I don't want us to get dinged for that, but that's some really old stuff.
yeah, it's interesting. Does it say that it's Victorville Records on it?
I don't know.
Yeah, as long as there's no label on it, I don't care. Now, if it has a giant label on it that says Victorville Archival Records, okay, get that out of here.
But that may be a good excuse to get a hold of Josh or whoever put it in there to say it needs to go.
Do you think it's Josh put it in there? Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, it should. Yeah, whoever put it there should probably.
Harry would love you because he wants that crap out of
Yeah. Terry's it's like me. I like keeping a clean hangar. Man. It's like I can't quite eat off the ground yet, but I'm working on it. Although I did come in my hangar once, and there was it looked like a cooked crawfish just curled up on my hangar floor.
The
'Cause-
big person to contact is
Who?
Ken Jenner.
Oh, Ken.
Who creates- Sometimes they go into the archives somewhere,
Hmm.
and there's other times they just kind of check.
If
There's
only.
history, there's a lot of history like this one, 47.
Well, now this is starting to make sense because if I only knew who the Group 3 historian was. Oh, that's right. That's me. Yeah, I should probably take a look at that. So. Yeah. Not. Oh, yeah. Victorville. That's not it now. No, but I can look into that because
The squadron was very active, and then it started to drop out, and it got to a point where it just couldn't maintain.
Yeah.
Couldn't get enough people to keep it going. A lot of people wanted to keep it going, a lot of parents wanted to keep it going, but there were no volunteers either.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those of you who are new, membership is tough. I mean, it's the thing that kind of drives the organization. As you take your level 1, level 2, level 3, you get a little more in-depth knowledge of how the organization works, how it's structured. but we're a volunteer organization. We need people to kind of come in and do their part. But what happens, and I can't remember if they kind of show this in level 1 or level 2, but we have to maintain, every squadron type has to maintain a certain amount of members, right? So it's a cadet squadron, they have to maintain a certain amount of cadets in the squadron. I think they can have as few as 1 or 2 adults, but I think that they have to maintain a certain number of cadets. Seniors, I can't remember the number, but I think it's 15. We have to stay over 15. If we drop below that, we become a flight. And if we become a flight, that's pretty much the next step to squadron goes away. So composite squadrons actually have some of the hardest limits to maintain, because composite squadrons are senior squadrons and cadet squadrons kind of together, and they have to have a ton of adults and a ton of cadets and active programs for both. And but the composite squadrons in the area all have 70 some odd members or something, so I mean they're not in any danger. But that's how the organization runs. Post-COVID, it's been pretty tough. It just is what it is. But I'm glad everybody shows up here, and but we've been hovering around the I think we finally broke into the mid 30s. We've been hovering in the low 30s for a while, but we're in the mid 30s. We got to keep it going. Like I said, when I was doing our website revamp, in some of the archival photos was this room, standing room only. So, I mean, 70 active members. Well, I think 70 members, 50 of them were active. This entire room packed. So that's the way it was, and just as short as pre-COVID. So lots of changes. Okay. Let's see. And as usual, I time out on these services. So this is an emergency services day, and I don't really have an official agenda, but one of the things that we can talk about, let me think. Let's see, there are some new people here, so I don't know. I mean, everybody's kind of sick of ops calls. I'm certain of that. I don't want to go through ops calls again. How about, let me see what I can find in here. I'm sure I've got some stuff from our last sortie. Oh, how about weather safety? I had an interesting thing come up during the last SARX. I can't remember if I showed this to you, Chuck. Yeah, it'll take a good couple of minutes to. There we go. So, I don't know how many of you use ForeFlight, but what you're kind of looking at is the radar display when we pull up a radar layer. So we were going out between Victorville and Palmdale, and we were looking for a downed glider, is what the mission was. So as you see, we flew out here. Now, as we got here on the way out, we saw that this was kind of a virga. So just a cloud with developing precipitation, no big deal. We could see rain, but it was actually turning into steam before it even hit the ground. So it's kind of like this kind of white curtain underneath the cloud. We're like, oh, that's kind of cool. So we go up, start flying our pattern, and returning, and now it's a dark cloud with that steam going all the way to the ground. And we're like, oh, we don't like that. We made our other turn here, and by the time we got to here, this had started to develop into something a little bit scary. So as you can see, we kind of skirted out to get away from it. But this was a dark cumulonimbus cloud that developed within 10 minutes and started, raining heavily. We started picking up turbulence, like where the position we were in that picture. We started picking up the turbulence because one of the things you can see, or it's hard to see because the glide path is right on it, but it's calculating the storm center. It's saying it has a top of 35,000 feet, and it's headed, to the northwest. And what I know about weather a little bit is the direction of a storm, like a strong storm, like a thunderstorm, the opposite back end of the storm, what happens up at the top, it opens like a big slot in the sky up near the 35,000 foot area, and it creates a very strong downdraft that goes through the back of the storm, and it's basically what's pushing the storm down the direction of travel. So when you get back here, you start to get really bad turbulence. And, as most people would know with most thunderstorms, not this one from what we could tell, the anvil's pushed in this direction, and then it will throw hail out, 5 to 20 miles away. So dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. And, we were doing a nice search pattern near one. And this developed to the point where we could see a vortex in the swirl in the middle of it. Like we could actually see a vortex. And then it seemed to get shrouded and everything, spun around, and then dissipated within 15 minutes. Yeah, that was a very interesting experience. And I was curious, just to pop open the weather layer, and sure enough, you can see it as clear as day on the weather layer. So it's
Anytime you see verdict, you're going to get thrown down.
yeah.
And secondly, you shouldn't even be closer than 20 miles from that center.
Yes, I would agree with that.
That is the safe region for the stuff that's coming out the top.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it appeared out of nowhere. I will tell you that, though. I mean, we had cloud layer, but we didn't expect it to do that. So now I know to expect everything at this point. But
There's no fresh wind shapes.
Yours was on Sunday, right?
that was on Sunday.
Yeah, we went up on Saturday, and just as we were going to start our pattern,
Same thing.
getting very wonky. And finally we just said no, return base.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we got back, we could see the cloud right where we were.
Yeah, big old mushroom. Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's a weird thing because you'll also see there's crazy glider pilots that look for that type of cloud, not the ones that form into that kind of quick storm, but they look for that kind of cloud because you'll get a convective rise underneath the cloud, so they'll hit the cloud and swirl up underneath the cloud, and I'm like, they're nuts. Glider pilots, man, are weird. And I think also, so you can know what happens on these kind of SARXs, so we had a mission. Our mission was to fly to a coordinate and photograph, actual, turbines. And we had to count how many there were, how many were unfunctional, and if any of them looked broken. So that's kind of, if you want to know what happens on a SARX, that's the kind of thing that happens on a SARX. And if you have an aerial photographer in the back, they're going to be taking pictures. If you have an MS, they just may have a mission tasking. And like I said, this tasking was to count the westernmost 4 rows on the latitude and longitude coordinates that they gave us. So we had to find those coordinates, get into position, take pictures. This would be a bad AP shot because you don't want the aircraft parts in there. But I wasn't the AP on this mission, so it can be forgiven. But if you're looking at aerial photography, which I'm actually thinking about doing it, as long as I've been flying in the plane, there are challenges of taking pictures in flight, and they teach you how to take better aerial photography. I mean, it's interesting stuff. That's an example. Now, when we go down to the border, it's a whole different situation. Actually, wait a minute. So when we finished that mission with the down glider, they said it would be very obvious when we found our target. Yeah. So I don't know about all of you, but kind of looks like a down glider. So they said it'd be extremely obvious when we actually found it. But just so what you're looking at, I mean, if you look at the main shot, that's what it looks like from the air. So those of you that want to get some excited about, doing a search and rescue, you're flying around junkyards looking for, no, but this is kind of a junkyard or whatever it is. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for something that looks like an aircraft on the ground, and you can tell by the way it's laid out how it crashed. So that's one of the things we actually look for. So when you have a plane that stall spins from a high altitude, it's just a crater, right? As opposed to they tried to glide it in, it'll be somewhat of a different type of crash. So that's interesting stuff. Oh, I had some excitement in my backyard. Yeah. So that was the Eagle Fire as shot by me from my backyard. So that was not fun for me. And if you want to see how fun it does get is you can see that they're doing the preemptive drops, and that's my neighborhood. So they had brought out, I think, 3 or 4 C-130s to do these drops. So, because they didn't want our homes to burn up. So I'm very happy for CAL FIRE. They did their job. It's good stuff. Then, if you're interested in what we do down in Imperial, when we're not flying over nudist colonies, just don't worry, there's nothing to see. But that's an example of doing, so this type of shot, yes, it's better. So for the aerial photographers in the room, that's what we call a nadir shot, where we go over the target and we bank a good 45 degrees, and then you kind of look out of the plane so that you're looking straight down on your targets. If you're in the back with the camera window, you're sticking the camera out and getting that straight down angle. So that's what a nadir shot looks like. Yeah. And then you'll see, since I'm an observer, there's a lot of pictures of receipts. I mean, look at that receipt, and then look at that log, and yeah. So you guys have heard me preach about this before. As the observer on a mission, I see it as my job to really do the paperwork, and I'm the mission manager. If you're aspiring to kind of be that, be very organized, take pictures, write down logs, do the Wimmer's work so that the pilots are fresh and they just fly. Like that's what we want. Let's see. There was another picture in here. Where did it go? There's this thing that we see every time we go out there, and I just, I guess I didn't get it this time. Yeah, where is it? There's like this way station at the border. I'm looking for it. I don't know. Ducks. My wife does a lot of ducks. I can't find it now. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is the kind of stuff that we sometimes have to report on. So this is up in Yakumba, and at Yakumba, you'll notice the fence does some strange stuff, right? I mean, okay, we put a fence up so people don't cross it, but then the fence ends right there. You could just walk around it. I'm not sure why they do it. And what they've put here is a little way station. Some tents to cool off, and there's some, these are porta potties and stuff. So, hey, it gets hot, you get tired, you're up in the mountains at this point. So, take a little break, and then, wait till nightfall, and then just, walk across the border. So, yes, yeah. So, I mean, that's, now what you don't see in this picture is right down this road, like there's a Border Patrol van that just sits right here and watches that spot. That's all they do. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we are looking for, like things that are out of the ordinary, things that just kind of, are they by the fence? Now it's of no interest. Like we don't even really report that to Border Patrol unless we saw people there. So if we saw that and we see like people milling around and doing stuff, that's when we would report that to Border Patrol. So just so you know what CD missions kind of look like. Not too exciting. And then how hard is it to spot things from the air? Okay, so in this picture, there's a car, uh, and it's down here. Now that one's an old and busted one, but I took that picture just to kind of show people that it is a little bit difficult to find things in an image, um, and especially, I mean, I think here we are pretty close to 1,000 feet, and we're probably right on 90 knots, but getting that shot, especially without like a regular DLSR camera, is actually very difficult to do because the plane's bouncing, you're hot, you're sweaty. The ability of your cell phone to acquire that target. But even if you're using the camera, what people don't realize is we don't use heavy zoom cameras, right? So if it's zoomed in, you're gonna have a hard time finding the target. So you start wide, try to center it on the screen because you want to have both your eyes open, and then you zoom into it, and then you start to take the burst shots of the camera. And that's what they'll teach you. In case I'm trying to make a point for people, go get your aerial photographer certificate because it's kind of fun and you learn how to do stuff like that. So get you a little excited. So when you've been here for 2 years or you're law enforcement, you get CD qualified, and you too can sit in the 114-degree heat in a canopy and take pictures like this. So 106, and we were like, "Oh, this is nice." So, like, yeah, yeah, it's hot, and the way we do those things is we'll fly a couple of sorties for 3 hours each. So hydration and not eating too much. There's a balance of you want to be fed and you don't want to get low blood sugar, but you definitely you want to be hydrated and you want to be in the aircraft. And you know, it's a long 3 hours. But we're doing ops normals. So every 30 minutes you're calling in, making sure everybody knows we're still out there. This last time we actually had Border Patrol talk to us, which I've never had that happen. The entire time I've been down there, we broadcast to them where we are and what we're doing. But Terry had to take a phone call, so he asked me to not, to stay in this area because we had cell reception. So I was just circling right over this one area, and I heard, "Hey, cappers, are you circling over my head?" I was like, "Who's talking to me?" So apparently there was a border patrol agent down there that we were circling over, unbeknownst to us. So they actually, it's proof that they listen. Like they're on frequency. They're actually paying attention to what we do. We apparently are doing something down there that they like. Um, so what I've heard, also some interesting things about CD. I always thought, yeah, they're just kind of being nice. We actually perform a function. So we are committed, or I think we commit to 42 weeks a year of 3 crews. That's what we commit to sending to the border. We don't often hit that quota, like that, but that's what we're committing to. And the reason we commit to that, the Border Patrol is actually trying to get more crews to come down. Like they want missions during the week, not just the weekends, because when we're flying during the day, it allows them to run less agents that stay. They can kind of beef up their patrols at night, which is when the majority of the crossings happen. So um, again, it's and you're the mission environment, the real mission environment, is completely different from the training environment. Like those of you who have been to SARXs, it's a madhouse, it's crazy. There's cadets, there's all kinds of things going on, and it's kind of, you're not really getting the real experience of what it's like to be on a CAP mission. When you go on a real CAP mission, people are professional. They expect you to know your job, but it's a much different environment. It's exactly what we are kind of here to do. So I encourage you all that, make it your 2 years, get your CD qualifications, because those are the missions that start to happen. There are other missions. There's WADs, and there's other WADs is do you? I don't think we need to be CD qualified for WADs. I don't think we need that. Yeah. So WADs, if you can get into a WADs mission, those are kind of fun too, because again, you're doing an actual mission as opposed to training for a mission. And who doesn't want to get wake turbulence from an F-15? But I do. Questions, comments before I figure out another 15 minutes of activity. No? All right. Oh, yes, sir.
CD, what's the experience like in terms of when you go, where do you stay? Like you ever
Yeah, so we stay in this Roach Motel. No, we stay in just a little inn down there. There's been a lot of conversation about trying to stay somewhere nicer, but this is a government mission. It's a government-funded mission, so the place we stay is agreed to accept the government rate for the room. So while that's true, which means you'll be reimbursed for the the cost of the room, like you pay while you're there, but then when the mission closes, you get reimbursed everything you paid plus your per diem. Per diem is look, if you want to eat ramen all day, per diem will be fine. But we actually like to eat well after we're done flying, so you're not gonna make any money back on your per diem. But yeah, we go down there. It's El Centro, so it's every place you can just imagine. We typically go and get drinks, get wings, get Mexican food, whatever we're getting. So I would say the best part of doing that particular CD mission is the esprit de corps that you get with Cap. And this last mission was pretty much all people who had flown together before, so that's really fun. But when I first started doing CD and filling in for other groups, that was just as fun because you're going to meet pilots and observers and people from all of the other groups, and you start to actually see that there is a wider community of Civil Air Patrol people out there that all want to do the same job. We always joke, of course, with the mission directors because they sit in the air conditioning all day, and we're baking in the sun, so there's always kind of the jokes about, yeah, the air conditioning's broken. It's like ice cold in here. I mean, it's
Just a Class C motel. Unless
it's like a 2-star. I think it's something like a 2-star. So we used to stay right. There's a hotel right on like the airport property. I can't remember the name of it, but I always ask the question, well, why don't we just stay there? And they're like, well, we used to, and then an unsavory element came in, and the restaurant on the airfield closed, so where it was super convenient because you would just get done flying, take a shower, go to the bar. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Now we actually have to go somewhere, but it's really all about kind of that experience afterward. I mean, we are doing air crew duties, so the flying part is very serious, right? We get up at, well, depends. If Terry's there, and Terry's very regimented about how we do things, we get up at 4, and we meet in the parking lot by like 4:30, and then get some coffee and pre-flight the planes and go. There are some mission directors that like us to meet at 3:30 in the Denny's, and that's problematic because most of us are still not awake yet. And, it is what it is. But you learn the different mission directors. They all have their thing, right? But it's really getting into that mindset of we get down there. When I first started, we flew down on Thursdays, and then Friday, Saturday, Friday 2 sorties, Saturday 2 sorties, and Sunday 1 sortie. That's the way it used to be. Now, just with the heat, we get down there Friday, fly 1 sortie as soon as we get there, fly 2 sorties on Saturday, 1 sortie on Sunday, and then fly home. Because as fun as it is, we all do want to go home. But the good part is, you're not going to get better experience with helping with pre-flight, doing the main parts of our jobs, right? The pilots pre-flighting and the observers are helping with that. But I'm typically doing paperwork, so I'm making sure that we're ready to fly, that we're released to fly, that the sortie's updated in the WIMR system. So I'm usually, on my iPad doing all of that stuff. And in the case of the aircraft, so the aircraft that we flew was a steam gauge, no autopilot, good GPS, but really no automation. So making sure that we've got, are we connecting to the ADSB on the aircraft, or am I using my Sentry? So when we talk about being prepared for missions, I've got a flight bag that has the ability to do pretty much anything in any one of our aircraft. So, just that's one of those things. And if you're ever in doubt about how do I connect to this aircraft's ADSB, well, bring a Sentry, because put a Sentry on the window, and now I don't care. Um, but yeah, I mean the environment. I mean it's El Centro, right? So it's if you speak Spanish, you'll do great. I mean, it is. I mean, most people speak Spanish down there, right? And it's interesting. But it's just like any other kind of military town, because the naval air station's right there. So, which is always fun. Every once in a while you get fast movers coming through. So, you'll see training flights. You'll see. I haven't seen F-22s, but I've seen F-35s. A lot of rotary wing, which is you got to be careful about rotary wings. So, the Ospreys. So there's El Centro Air Base, and then there's Imperial. The Marines. I always ask this question, like, why are they always coming over to Imperial to fuel up? I mean, there's a naval air station right there, and if you ask the crew, they'll tell you. They'll go, well, Imperial is trained and they allow hot refueling. So they allow the engines to be turning. Rotors are engines are on, rotors are turning, and they can fuel their Jet A, while they're running, which means they don't have to, just like with Civil Air Patrol, they don't have to open a new. Well, we do, but they don't have to open a new sortie because their engine is running. Now I said, but why Imperial? Like, what's up? Like, you guys are right there, and I'm like, oh, because we're Marines, and I go, I'm not following. Well, the Navy guys get service first, so we pre-flight, we start up the aircraft, and then we're sitting there idling, waiting to go, and all the Navy guys are lined up, getting their fuel and taking their time and drinking their coffee and going to the bathroom, and we're burning fuel. So we got tired of that, so we come over to Imperial, where they treat us nice. They have a nice FPO now. It's air conditioned. They have nice bathrooms, and they refuel us. They'll refuel us just like the military refuels us, and they honor the military fuel rate. So they're like, we just come over to Imperial. Like it's much better for us. And I was like, interdepartment rivalry. Since the Marines are still the bottom of the barrel, they have to hop over to Imperial to get service. Very interesting. So, but it's pretty cool. I mean, we watch out for it really quick. I mean, because if they've got Cobras or U-860s or Ospreys hot refueling, that's a little bit dangerous for us. So, we have to make sure they're pointed away from the runway, and, which they almost always are. But, a helicopter on the ground, if the rotors are turning, they're typically good crews. As long as those rotors aren't generating lift, there's no vortex for us to really worry about, but there's no way for us to know that, right? So, when we see their rotors turning, we're going to taxi a different way because we don't want to get rolled. Imperial is also infamous for, there's a ditch. So there's a main runway that we take, but then there's like a ditch, and I won't say who, and it wasn't anybody in this squadron, so I guess I could say who, but I'm not going to, who was taxiing around without the taxi lights in the middle, in the early morning, and went into a ditch. They had to be pushed out of the ditch. So use your taxi lights. Stay in the center of the taxi line. Like, pretty basic stuff, right? Yeah, so it's, but yeah, it's a fun mission. I mean, let me correct myself. The mission itself's not fun. The getting to do the actual mission that we're all here to kind of signed up to do, that is the fun part. The other fun part is you can't wear a uniform. So that's like usually the benefit. Now you can't wear shorts, but you wear comfortable clothes. Now I've asked this question many times, and I think I understand the answer. It's like, so we fly big red, white, and blue aircraft. So why does it make a difference that we wear uniforms? And I never thought about it that much. I was like, we're easy to identify. We hopped out of a red, white, and blue aircraft. Yeah, they don't want people targeting us when we're roaming around the city. So think about that. If that concerns you, CD, the Imperial mission is not for you. But they don't want us to be kind of targeted and tracked outside of our aircraft. So that's why we don't wear uniforms. Anything else? I wish I could talk about the Coast Guard missions, but I still haven't gotten to go on one yet. I got briefed for one, and then the weather is always horrible. So
I thought the company was San Diego.
no, I got briefed with Redmond to do a Coast Guard mission last month or the month before, and the problem is, May gray and June gloom, right? The coast is completely fogged in, 800-foot ceilings. But if there's no clouds, what the Coast Guard mission is we take off from wherever we're taking off, typically here, or for us here, we fly over to Dana Point basically, and then fly along the coast all the way down to the border, and then we come back up and do a loop, some mountain down there, but we do a little loop of the southern, the San Diego area, and we try to do that before the sun comes up. So, and that's because we're looking for, open top boats that have like way too many people in it, suspicious things in the water that have little periscope things hanging out of it. Like that's literally what the mission is. I got super excited. I had my knee board already because unlike Imperial, where we are really only talking to our mission director or radio operator the whole time, that's pretty much we're flying in a big pattern and we're talking to our base. The Coast Guard mission is very involved. If you're going to be an observer or a pilot, but if you're an observer on a Coast Guard mission, it's very involved. It's a lot of stuff to do because you have to monitor multiple frequencies. You have to switch a lot of frequencies. And there's a good chance that you might have a Coast Guard observer on board the aircraft. So, and then they have their own radio. Now, the cool thing is if you have a Coast Guard observer on the aircraft, then the observer job gets super simple because we just sit there and shut up. I mean, that's pretty much it. No, I mean, we talk to what I would be doing is if we had a Coast Guard observer, I would be making sure that we're talking to Pendleton because we actually are flying in the restricted areas. But I would talk and make sure that they know where we are and what we're doing, but the Coast Guard observer will talk to the Coast Guard. But when there's no Coast Guard observer, we're monitoring a Coast Guard frequency and we're monitoring all the frequencies of the restricted zones that we're flying in and out of. It's very busy, just because we're literally, if any other aircraft was doing this, they would be a target of interest. So we are down there with a special squawk code and we patrol around and we look for suspicious things. We look for boats that have recently, surfaced, that look like they had a lot of people on top of them. We look for strange things floating in the ocean. And I was getting really excited to do it, but we got weathered out. So, May and June are the horrible times to do the mission. And then it just gets super hot, so then nobody wants to do the mission. So it is what it is. There was a call out for a Coast Guard mission a couple days ago, though. So that looked interesting. I think they said they found whatever they're looking for. Did they? Did I see that?
No, I think the Coast Guard actually got their aircraft back up online, so then they...
Because it was, what I saw, it would have been kind of a hike.
Yeah.
Because it was like Oceanside to Morro Bay. Okay. Yeah. Morro Bay. That's a little bit of a trip, but that's what we do. All right. Now, also for those of you that want to do that, I haven't seen the requirement, but whenever you see water survival being offered, you should take it. It's a fun day. You go over to Los Alamos, play in the pool, don't drown. I mean, curiously though, there's never going to be another time that you know and see and get to practice how to get into the life raft that's in the back of our aircraft. That I would say that alone is worth the experience because it's not what I would call simple, especially if you're stressed. The plane just crashed. It's good to know how the raft works and how to get into it because it's not like, oh, I'm just going to go roll into it. No, it's higher than you, and if you're in waves, like, you have to know how to use the little latch. And anyway, so you got to learn how to get in the raft, but you learn how to get in the raft after you're good and tired. So that's what they do. You get in there and tread water while you're wearing either a full wetsuit or wearing normal clothes, and then get nice and tired from treading water, and then get into the. But water survival's fun. For some unknown reason, I'm a water survival set, so I definitely will be talking about when there's a chance to train for it. Um, um, like I said, it's a fun day, and it's a fun day. And if you don't have a flight suit, I wouldn't suggest you go get a flight suit to do it, but there are tricks of the trade that you can use with your flight suit. So I just brought my wetsuit or flight suit, take all your stuff off of it, because it will fill up with air. So you just kind of, and there you go. Now I can just float. I didn't have to tread. So there's little tricks, but don't drown. It's bad form. But yeah, there's a course that I think you can also take in the first part of water survival, which is just the quick video about things you should be aware of on water ditching, because it's different than land ditching. So it's here's the part they talk about. You'll see a part where they talk for the pilots about reading the swells and getting the plane in between the swells and getting that, but and the wind and all this stuff. And you'll go through all that, and then it's like, well, 50% of the time the plane will flip over. It doesn't matter what you do. So I think most people just plan on the plane flipping over and getting out of it. But and just remember, go to the tail. That's what we teach. Exit the aircraft, go to the tail. And hang out. So, all right. Well, we vamped for a while. Questions, comments, any burning questions before we wrap it up? We felt we learned anything about emergency services today? No, probably not. Anyways, thanks for, let's see. Let me see who's online. All right. Mr. Enoch. All right, good. So, did anyone actually tune in to YouTube?
Yeah, we have a couple.
Okay.
Roger
And Roger Man.
Excellent.
and Jason.
All right. Oh, Jason's on both. How about that? He's double. He's double dipping. All right. Well, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.